All of you, my dear students. In today's class, I will explain you regarding to modal verbs. It is a continuation class. I have completed 5 parts. This is the sixth part, part number 6. Okay. In this sixth part, which modal verb we are going to discuss means that modal verb is need. Before going to teach about the modal verb need, modal verbs there are 13 in number, but there are two kinds. Modal verbs are two kinds. One is pure modals or modal verbs. Pure modals are 9. What are the pure modals? Pure modals are 9. They are shall, should, will, would, can, could, may, might, must. These are 9 modal verbs are called pure modals. You should remember, my dear students. And what about the semimodals? Now we are discussing about semimodals or semimodal auxiliaries. Semimodals are only 4. 9 plus 4, 13. What are the semimodal verbs? Semimodal auxiliaries are modal verbs ought to, need, dare, used to. These 4 are semimodals. Please understand, my dear students. Only in English language, modal verbs are 13. They are categorized into two types. One is pure modals and second is the semimodals. Pure modals are 9 and semimodals are 4. The total modal verbs are 13. We are discussing the semimodal verbs. What are the semimodal verbs for? They are ought to, need, dare, used to. These 4 verbs modals are semimodal. These verbs are also called quasi-modals. These verbs are also called quasi-modal verbs. And also they are also called marginal modal verbs. We are talking about I am teaching about the quasi modal verbs or semimodal verbs. What is the main difference between pure modals and semimodals? What is the main difference? Pure modals, they are only function as a modal verb. What is the modal verb? The function of the modal verb? Modal verbs are special verbs that are different from normal verbs. They are never used alone and are always following the principal verb. I will go there. Followed the principal verb or main verb. And it is not possible separately, individually. They are never used alone. For example, I will there. There is any meaning? Is there any meaning for this I will there? There is no any meaning. Pure modal means, what is difference between, I will explain you. Difference between pure modal verbs and semimodal verbs. Pure modal verbs, they are never used alone and are always followed by a principal verbs. And they provide additional information about the principal verbs. They are used to express certainty, possibility, willingness, obligation, necessity, ability. They are distinct moods, different moods. The different moods, modal verbs. Different moods, distinct moods. Modal verbs express as different moods or distinct moods. Pure modals means they never used alone. For example, I can ride a bicycle. I can ride a bicycle. This is a main verb. They never used alone and always followed by the principal verb or main verb. If you delete this one, I can a bicycle. I can a bicycle. Is it a sentence has a meaning? There is no, it does not give a meaning. It is not a meaningful sentence. There is no sense, there is no meaning. I can a bicycle. I can drive a car. I can drive a car. I can a car. I can a car. That particular sentence has meaning or there is no meaning at all. Grammatically it is a wrong sentence, wrong usage. That means pure modals always follow the main verb. They never comes alone. But what about the semimodals? There are 4 semimodals. 4 verbs are there. Already I will explain you. Semimodals. Semimodals, they are functions both main verb and modal verb. This is main different. That's why they are semimodal verbs. We are also semi-vowels are there in English language. Semi-vowels. Semi-alphabet. In alphabet, semi letters are there. What is the example of Y? In alphabet, the Y is a semi-vowel. It is, for example, Y it is function as the consonant or vowel, semi-vowel. W also semi-vowel, W. For example, DRAW, draw, there is no, it is functions as a vowel, draw. There is no pronunciation. It has been as a silent letter. That's why it is a semi-vowel, W. Work, it is consonant sound. It is a consonant. It functions as a consonant, as a vowel. That is called a semi-vowel. Y also, baby. E sound is there. Vowel sound. Young, consonant sound. That particular letter which functions either consonant or vowel, both functions have been done. That's why they are called semi-vowels. Likewise, semi-modal verbs means they functions as a main verb and as a modal verb. That is the difference between the semi-modals and pure modals, my dear students. Semimodals verbs we are discussing now. These semimodal auxiliary verbs sometimes behaves like a modal auxiliary verb as a functions main verb. Particularly a verb that functions to some extent like a modal verb, typically the way it form negative and interrogative. For example, we take the ought to. It is a semi-modal verb. I will give you example. In one sentence, it has function as a modal verb. What is the another function? It has functions, it works as a main verb. Semimodal verbs are used both as modal verbs and as main verbs. Both modal verbs and main verbs. For example, ought to, it is one of the ought to is a semimodal verb, and dare is a semimodal verb, need is a semimodal verb, used to is a semimodal verb. These modal verbs are used both as modal verbs and main verbs. For example, they ought to. For example, negative, they ought not to say that. They ought not to say that. They ought not to say that. It is a negative sentence. Ought to say. That means it is a modal verb. It functions in this sentence. It comes along with the main verb say. They ought not to say that. That is one example. As a modal verb, it functions. As a main verb, they did not ought to say. They did not ought to say. Didn't is a helping verb. Did not. Ought is a main verb. That's why it functions as a main verb. They did not ought to say. I will write only simple sentence, my dear students. We should understand that. For example, for clear understanding, what is the difference between the main pure modals and semimodals? The train ought to leave. The train ought to leave now. Ought to leave now. It is a main verb. It has done that work. The train ought to leave now, and he ought to speak now. The train ought to leave. It functions as a main verb. And one more example I will give. He ought to speak now. He ought to speak now. NOW now. That means semimodal verb functions as a main verb or a modal verb. And then I used to drink coffee when I was young. I used to smoke once. I need to come now. They need not buy this dress. How dare you speak to me? I dare not to show my progress card to my father. Easy example, dare. For example, I take, how dare you speak to me? How dare you speak to me? It functions as a modal verb. And what is the main verb? In negative form, I dare not show. It is the main verb. I dare not show my progress card to my father. I dare not show my progress to my father. It is a function. It has functions as a main verb. That means semimodal verbs means auxiliary verbs sometimes behaves like a modal auxiliary verbs and sometimes function as a main verb. Now, today's class we will discuss about the need. We will discuss about the need. The verb, modal verb need. Modal verb need. In this class, I will explain you about the need. This need, the word is semimodal verb. What is the sentence? It is used mostly negative and interrogative or question. question form. Negative and question form, they have been used. For example, you need not spend a lot of money on presents. It is a negative sentence. You, for example, you need not spend a lot of money. You need not spend a lot of money on. You need not spend a lot of money on presents, on gifts, presents. It is a noun form. You need not spend. Spend is a main verb. Need, a modal verb. It follows the main verb. It functions as a modal verb. You need not spend a lot of money on presents. That means we use a negative sentence. Negative sentence. It is a negative form. It is a negative form. Semi-modal verb as functions as a negative form is there. Nobody need know the name of the person who made the complaint. Not a thing need change on this page. No one need to know about it. No one need to read this. Well, as a question form, for example, as a question form, how do you frame the question form of the semi-modal need is not very common, it is rather formal. Need we write to this as a question form. Need we write this? Need we write this? It is an interrogative sentence. Need we. Subject verb comes before a subject. Inversion. Need we write this? It is an interrogative question form. Need we write this down? Write this down, it is a phrasal verb. Write down. Slipped phrasal preposition. Need we write this down? It is interrogative sentence, we have to use need. And then needn't, the semi-modal need is most common in the negative. We use it to show that there is no obligation. It is more important. The function is no obligation. We use to need no obligation. It is most commonly in negative sentence. It is used to frame the negative sentence. It is more important. The main function of the need is no obligation. Obligation means not compulsory. Through the example we should understand. For example, no obligation, the function of the need as a modal verb. We need not as a modal verb. We need not spend much time. We need not spend much time on this topic, TOPS topic. We need not spend much time on this topic. It is used the semi-modal verb. Need is most common in the negative. It is a negative sentence. Why? Because we use it to show that there is no obligation. It is not compulsory. We need not to spend much time on this topic. At present and future also. At present I am talking. When no obligation in the past, how to express our in the past? No obligation in the past. In the past event. The semi-modal verb need past time. In the past time, no obligation. How to express? Instead, we did not have to. For example, in the past obligation, no obligation, I did not, it is an example sentence. I did not need to buy a bike. to buy a bike. I did not need to buy a bike. It is a past event. Did. We should use did. Did indicates past tense. Did plus V1. I did not need to buy a bike using the modal verb. It is a past obligation. It is not compulsory to buy a bike in the past, once upon a time. That is the main point. In some occasions we use the need. Unnecessary events. We should use need not negative sentence as a modal verb. Unnecessary events. On that occasion we use this word. The function of the need. You need not have waited for me. You need not have waited for me. You need not have waited for me. That means you are not necessary to wait for me. It is unnecessary event. You need not have waited for me. That function also the need modal verb should express. Okay, modal verb need to express no one need know about this. Need is as a semi-modal verb because it's something, it is like a modal verb and otherwise like a main verb. But mostly it is used negative. We should understand that negative and interrogative. Mostly the modal verb need is used in the negative and interrogative sentence to form the indicate that no obligation or no necessity. For example, you need not negative sentence. Take off. Take off means remove. It is a phrasal verb. Your shoes. Your shoes. Your shoes. It is an obligation. No obligation. There is no necessary. Negative sentence. You need not to take off your shoes. You need not to remove your shoes. Take off means remove. It is no obligation. We use a negative sentence as a modal verb. That is more important. As we are often used as a affirmative sentence. Affirmative means positive sentence. We use the words affirmative positive sentence. We use the words. What are the words we should use affirmative as a positive sentence? No. No one. Never. Never. It is partially negative. Never. No one. Nothing. Nothing. No one. Nothing. Never. These are the words follow the need as an affirmative sentence. For example, no one need think that we are doing this every week. No one. No one. No one need. No one need. No one need to think. No one need think that we are doing this every week. No one need think. No one. It follows the, no one follows the need. That means it is the negative meaning. No one needs. It is also a negative meaning, even though it is a positive sentence. For example, simple sentence I will write you. No one need. No one need. No about. No one need know about this. There is no necessary to know about this issue. That means no one need know about this. Any person did not responsibility to know this. That is the meaning of that one. In positive, these words no one, never, nothing. These follows the in positive sentence, in affirmative sentence. In affirmative sentence, these follows. And the need is as a main verb. As a main verb. We are discussing here as a modal verb. Need, why? Because it is called semi-modal. It functions as a main verb or modal verb. Now we are discussing as a main verb. Need. As a modal verb, as a main verb. As a main verb, what is this? Main verb, it changes with personal. Main verb changes based on the person, number and tense. The main verb follows these three rules. For example, you need not mention this to your father. For example, you need not mention. You need not mention. Mention is a V1 verb. You need not mention this to your father. It is a main verb. It is a main verb. You don't need to mention this to your father. You don't need. Here you need not mention is, for example, it is mention, it follows the main verb and it functions as a modal verb. Modal verb. The same example I will write to you as a main verb. Both we are doing. For example, you don't mention. Don't mention. You don't mention to your father. You don't mention. Don't mention. This is a does form. This is helping verb with main. This is a main verb. You don't mention this to your father. It is. What is the function of this one? You don't mention. You don't need to mention. You don't need means it is functions as a main verb. In the above example, the meaning is the same. For semimodals, need and main verb need to. We must use the main verb need when it following by a noun phrase. Noun phrase. Main verb. You don't need an umbrella. 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 Don't need as a main verb. The main verb need is followed by when used with another verb. You don't need an umbrella. It functions as a main verb, my dear students. And then some of the examples are there here. Please understand. Uses of modal verb need. The main rule for the use of modal need is that chiefly means mainly. Absence of necessity, no obligation or no compulsion on the time we use as a modal verb. This is mostly in negative sentence and interrogative sentence. These are all most. The function is absence of necessity, no obligation, no compulsory, and we are framing the negative sentence and interrogative sentence when using the modal verb. Here the examples are there. Only 2 examples they have given. You need not worry about work. That means there is no obligation. There is no compulsory. There is no obligation. There is no compulsory. There is no compulsory. It is a negative sentence. It is a negative. We use a negative sentence. Need I talk to her? The modal verb functions as interrogative form. Question mark. Need I talk to her? It functions as interrogative sentence. Okay, my dear students, both main we should understand these verbs are mainly used as it shows no obligation, no necessity, no compulsion, and they are using in negative sentences and interrogative sentences. These are main functions of the need as a modal verb, basic functions of the need. Okay, my dear students, I will conclude this class. Before concluding, I will mainly you should understand the usage of the need. You should refer some authentic books about the modal verbs, and next class we will meet again. In this class I have explained you about the semi-modal verbs and the functions of while using the need as a modal verb or a main verb. Okay, thank you each and everybody. Goodbye.